Hey tubers, welcome back for another adventure. So I went to shred the leaves. I typically use this Cub Cadet to do that with. And by the way, this is an RZT50 2007 vintage. So I went to shred the leaves and, started it up and the blades didn't engage. So it's like, oh man, what's wrong with this boat anchor now? And I noticed when I popped the switch up just as I did, it didn't feel as it normally does. It didn't have the same click to it. So that makes me suspicious of the switch, but it could be one of three things. It could obviously be the switch. It could be the clutch, the electric PTO that's sitting on the motor, that when you engage it, it actually drives the blades. Or it could be some kind of interlock. So, it's like, okay, what do we do now? Well, let's start out with the easiest thing to check. And the easiest thing to really check is the clutch. Now, what I did was, when I turned it on and off, I didn't hear any clicks or clunks, just nothing. Nothing at all happened. So what I've done is, I don't know if you guys could see that, where am I? That right there. You see those two wires going into that connector? That connector is what powers the electric clutch here. So I put two probes into the connector. I didn't disconnect it. And the reason why I did not disconnect it is it would not come apart easily. And my goal with this is not to make matters worse. Yeah, you guys can see how those two probes go right into the connector there. So with one of the probes, I have it going to the positive side of the battery pack. And here is the second probe, and listen. So, the clutch appears to be engaging. Once again, when I turned the switch on and off, I heard nothing. And now that I put power to the clutch, I hear something. So, the issue isn't that I burned up a $150 clutch, or the coil open that engages a $150 clutch. It appears as if it's either interlocks or the switch. Next thing I did is I kind of took a look on eBay, and all over the place they were talking about the new improved switch. A switch costs about 18 bucks. So when I kept reading about the new improved switch, I'm thinking to myself, and by the way, about 20 vendors sold these switches. You can get it from many places on the internet, on eBay. I thought to myself, you know what? I bet you those switches go bad. They're known to go bad. And there we are. So my next game was to order a switch. Showed up in about 3 days. And by the way, this is the old one. I already swapped it out to prove that was the problem. Changing the switch out, not at all difficult to do once you know what you're doing. First of all, you can pull the connector right off the back, but do pay attention that when you go to put the connector back on, the way it's kind of color coded here, if you go to put the connector around 180 out, it will not go on, and you'll be fussing around kind of blindly, going crazy. Once you pull the connector off, to get the old switch out, you got to push in all four of these tabs at the same time, which, unless you could crush Volkswagens with your hands, it's not all that easy, especially when your hand is up underneath, kind of squeezing them in. I found it easier to kind of push them in on one side, rock it up, kind of try to push them in on the other side, rock it up, and work it out that way. Putting it back in is easy. You just slide it right back in and it snaps right back into place. But once again, make sure you line up your notice once again you have an opening in the center here and no opening on the center on the other side. That way your cable goes right on. I found it's easier to get my hand up in here to do the work once I took out 1, 2, 3 bolts. You could get this whole console off, except there's a bolt that comes up through the frame here and bolts into here. I could not get that bolt out, so I took those 3 off, which kind of allows this thing to move off to the side, which makes it easier to access. Once again, it was a matter of popping the old cable off, rocking the switch out by pushing those tabs in. Before I put the new switch in, actually before I took the old one out, I had the cable loose and I tried to new switch in it, and as soon as it worked, I rocked the old one out, popped the new one in, put the cable on it, and we're all good now. We're all good to go. Back to shredding leaves. Costs about $18 for a new switch. I'd venture to say, if you called up the local I'll fix your zero turn person to come pick up your zero turn, bring it to the shop, fix it, and give it back to you, I gotta figure for the pickup, the switch change, and the drop off, you gotta be looking at $200 or more. So you can save yourself a good little bit of money by doing the work yourself. Easy to do. If you don't feel comfortable checking your clutch out as I did, don't bother. If your blades just do not engage, you can say, you know what, I'm going to risk it and I'm going to pop for a switch. So you put $20 into a switch. If it fixes it, you're well ahead. If not, you're down $20. Once again, the clutch is about $150, and probably to get the guy to do it, you're probably looking at least $150 more. So if you pop a clutch, it's got to be at least a $300 experience at your local issue.Zero turn repairman. If you have an interlock type problem, now it really gets interesting. As you can see by all the wires on here, and by the way, each and every one of those has a wire. When you pull this up, easier said than done, obviously. When that goes up, it makes 2 connections and it breaks 1 connection. So it's not as easy as putting your simple Batman toggle on it, you know, your on-off toggle. I wanted to keep this thing so that the interlocks that I bought it with are still on it. I bought it used and not all the interlocks function, but I wanted to keep some of the interlocks on there, so to keep it somewhat safe. Like you can't start it, the starter won't engage unless the parking brake is on. If you have the parking brake on and you move the handles from these positions, it stalls. This thing, when you go backwards, the blades turn off both sides backwards. One way backwards it doesn't, but if you go backwards with both handles such that the thing is actually moving backwards, the blades turn off. I wanted to keep some of that stuff alive. They do have the switch such that when you go to get off of it, it turns the motor off. They have that bypassed. I left it that way. I never plan on selling this thing, and I never really plan on letting anybody else use it, so it's like that. It'd be easy enough to reconnect, but currently that's like that. Okay, I hope this helps some people. I want to thank everybody for watching and commenting and subscribing. Please remember to keep your feet down, keep your heads up, and get out and enjoy each and every day. Bye now.